Hello guys, welcome back to the channel where it is going to be something slightly different today. Rather than the, normal thing where I take a spin on an NFL news piece or what I did the other day with the straight-up opinion piece about Bill Belichick, what I'm going to do at the end of each month, or the start of each month, depending on how you want to view it, is I'm going to be doing my power rankings. I did, in my previous job at Gimme Sport, try to do it on a weekly basis, but I just figured if you break it down month by month, it just gives you a lot more time to fully assess the situation. You're not judging too harshly off the back of one bad result. You've got to say, oh, whilst this was, you gives them a chance to develop and see, oh, was that a blip or was that a thing? So rather than being too hasty and going off just week by week, let's get a whole month out of it. 3 or 4 games. How was an injury? Impacted the team over a course of a couple of games where you can actually get a decent sample size. So that's what I've gone through, and I'm going with just the top 10. I'm not smart, and I'm not saying I'm not smart enough, nor do I really have the time to go through which of the who is worse between the Broncos and the Bears, for instance. I mean, it was the Bears because they played and they won. Well, the Broncos won. You get what I'm saying. Is I'm not going to go through all of that, or who's the better 1 and 3 team between the Broncos and the Bengals. Say, and no, I don't want to go all that. I don't want to go all that way down. So I'm just going to keep to the top 10. And just give a little bit of explanation as to why I've put them there, and why they have managed to get themselves and why they've had a good season so far. I will just give a little bit of a spoiler. They are all the teams that are near the top of the near the top of the ranks. So 10, 2, 3, they're all 3 and 1. So I'm not going to have any of this. Is a 2 and 2 team better than a 3 and 1 team or something? They are all 3 and 1. It's just coincidence. And then the 2 undefeated teams are at the top, as they should be. And even if they were 3 and 1, they'd probably be there anyway, but we'll get to that. So you know who the top 2 are. What order they're going to be in? Let's wait and see. Anyway, so we'll start with number 10, and I've gone for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 10. Baker Mayfield going through a bit of a resurgence. We saw that last year when he went to the Los Angeles Rams and, had his miracle Thursday Night Football after only being there for 2 days or whatever, and he was performing better than he was with the Panthers. And now with the Buccaneers, he's maybe it's because he's got that Kyle Trask gunning for his job over his shoulder, has sort of given him a bit of a spur, but it's working pretty well in the Buccaneers, even though they're going through what is a bit of a rebuild after the Tom Brady years. Credit to the coaching staff that they've managed to get something pretty decent onto the field, which was never going to be an easy task. But obviously, there's a few players that are left over from the Super Bowl and the competitive years, shall we say. They're keeping them going, and all good for them. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whilst many people may have put them, at least I did as well, I will fully admit, it's the Caleb Williams sweepstakes for the end of the year. They're doing pretty well, so all credit to them. Number 9, I've gone for the Seattle Seahawks, who again are going through their transition period, continue going through their transition period. But Geno Smith is, as was advertised last year. There was always the concern of was it a 1 year thing? Was he just on a way to prove himself, whatever? But Geno Smith's been doing pretty well, and on the defensive side of the ball, they've drafted. Pete Carroll has drafted pretty well. All credit goes to Devon Witherspoon. Coming into the draft, I had him as the number 2 quarterback behind Christian Gonzalez. Obviously went to the Patriots, but Devon Witherspoon's turning out to be pretty well. I don't think he's going to be as good as or as a name brand as the Richard Sherman, go back to the Legion of Boom days, but I think he's certainly someone that could lead a defense in the way that he's doing, and put up some pretty put up some pretty important plays and make some big ones. So I've got the Seattle Seahawks at number 9. Number 8, I've got the Detroit Lions, a team who are very much living up to the hype. There's always that danger. And I think I mentioned it with the Jets, but there is also the situation with the Lions. They got a lot of hype in the preseason. Are they actually going to be able to live up to it? And different levels of hype surrounded the Jets and the Lions. But given what the Lions did towards the end of last year, Dan Campbell, who I always said was more of a motivator than a tactician, and I do to an extent still stand by that. But on the coaching job that he's doing, you can't doubt it. When big result against the Green Bay Packers last week, and just growing up the the level of anticipation, the expectation, and they're living up to it. Which for a franchise that has been downbeat for a lot of a lot of my conscious lifetime watching the NFL, it's very good. It's very good to see. Jared Goff is going through his resurgence, and with the likes of Jameson Williams coming back from his gambling suspension, it can only really get better from here. So who knows? Come this time next month when we do the next set of power rankings, they could be even higher up the list. My first AFC team, double check, yeah, first AFC team coming in at number 7, where I've got the Baltimore Ravens, where again, it comes to someone proving any doubters wrong, like Geno Smith was in San Francisco and Lamar Jackson. I had the doubts about whether or not he'd be able to produce at the same level that he has done, and he has become known for, given the fact that he's on his second ACL injury. But again, he's proven to be pretty good. Again, not quite MVP level Lamar Jackson, but still pretty serviceable franchise, and showing that if he keeps playing like this, he'll have been worth the big money that he got. Which again was always the risk, but there is also the risk of injury. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And staying on the offensive side of the ball, we know the Ravens are always going to be very good defensively, especially with Roquan Smith leading them on that side. But on the offensive side of the ball, receivers are doing very well. Zay Flowers, who they drafted there's always the way that the NFL is going. There's always a good bunch of wide receivers that come out every year. Zay Flowers was amongst them, and he's turning out to be very much worth the early pick that the Ravens spent on him. Moving on, and this is going to be a bit of a close-up. So I'll do it 5 and 6 together. But 6 I've got the Miami Dolphins, and number 5 I've got the Buffalo Bills. Going into the game that they just played, I did have the Dolphins and the Bills sort of level, and I was going to use this as the determining factor because, what can you do? We have the evidence in front of one team is better than the other. But I will say for the Miami Dolphins, highest scoring offense, as in most points scored, with an asterisk. Because if that was, the game against the Broncos with the 70, if that was, even a very good performance and it was put up 40, they'd be down. So whilst they have the outscoring offense, part of it comes with the asterisk and the anomaly of the high scoring game. And just as a point of order, the Buffalo Bills, if you take out the 70 and just say, oh, it was an anomaly, we can go with it, then the Buffalo Bills are the highest scoring. So what we said about the Bills, what many people rather said about the Bills and Josh Allen with the weapons they've got, very much living up to the expectation. Because they are the second, and as I said, it's pretty much all there. My only concern with the Dolphins is this was what we saw last year, especially with Tyreek Hill and his thing. It's all good right now. Can I keep it up when it gets cold in December, January, February? And can Tua Tagovailoa stay healthy? He's done so now, but there is always that doubt with him based on what has happened. So that's my main concern. My main concern as to why I put them 6, but also the fact they just lost to the team that was in 5th, so it was a pretty straightforward one to go through. Number 4, I've gone for the Dallas Cowboys, and that was a late change because I did have them 3rd, but then there's just something about they have done incredibly well on both sides of the ball. But if the Trayvon Diggs injury was a short-term thing, if it was a month and you think, oh, he'll be able to get through them, for the playoffs and whatever, then I'd put them at 3rd. But just long-term, I'm sort of also envisioning this as a long-term thing. Whilst they have, the best defense, amongst the best defenses in the league, just that Trayvon Diggs injury, it just gives you that little bit of cause for concern that they can be got in certain styles. But overall, it's a very good picture. But just that one injury just makes me think: is he going to be the key difference? When it gets to the playoffs, if it's in a shootout, just that one play that he could have made that the replacement corner can't make, just gives me a little bit pause for thought. So that's why they go in at number 4. Number 3, I've gone for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are slowly getting back to where we expected them to be as the best team in the AFC. They obviously had that blip against the Detroit Lions on the first game of the season, but the Detroit Lions, as I've said, are living up to the hype. So it's not really a shame. And if you give the mitigating factor, they didn't have Chris Jones in there as well, and they didn't have Travis Kelce in the first game, so they could very easily be 4-0 if not for those two. If not for those two injuries, that's why I've got them at 3 and the best team in the AFC. Number 2 and number 1 were very, very close, and I've got. This isn't meant to be a slight on the team that come in second, but I've got the Eagles that is second. I've got the Eagles in second and the 49ers at number 1, who have again separated themselves not just in the NFC but in the NFL overall as the standard of what you want your teams to do. And honestly, if I'd given myself 5 more minutes there, I might have been able to talk myself into putting the Eagles number 1 and the 49ers number 2. It was just that close. But just on today and given the overall reflection of what has happened, I've just gone for the San Francisco 49ers as my number 1 team. But again, given how things are set to go, I mean, this weekend it is the Cowboys and the 49ers. How's that going to play out? And then can the team, whoever loses can bounce back and all that sort of stuff. That's all the factors that I'm playing into when it comes to the power rankings. Because there are a whole load of mitigating factors you have to concern yourself with. But those are my top 10. Let me guys know what you think in the comments down below. As always, the links to my socials are going to be in the description. Feel free to comment in the comments or reach out to me on the other social media platforms or on the website, baldwinsportsmedia.com, where there is daily NFL articles. And other than that, you guys take care and see you next time.